Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to the Real Chatbox Show with your cute host, OB Slender. On this show, we discuss pertinent social issues, education, entertainment, fashion, religion, wellness, mental health, what have you. What do they say? A healthy mind lives in a healthy body. So let's make our physical fitness a priority. Let's meet each week here with our distinguished guests. Cheers. Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to the Real Chatbox Show with your cute host, OB Slender. This show is proudly sponsored by Duchess Merchant Capital, GH Media School, and Sound Bay Productions Limited. On this show, we discuss pertinent social issues on education, culture, fashion, entertainment, mental health, what have you. Let's go for a short commercial break. When we come back, I'll introduce our guest for the day. Welcome back from the break. I have today with me a fire expert. I will allow him to introduce himself. Welcome, Mr. Afro.
Thank you very much, madam. Okay, so I am Edio Woon Besmakafo. Okay, when I say the woon, it's like we using our terms. Okay, so Edio 1 Besmakafo from the Ghana National Fire Service. Yes, but then I am stationed at Amomole Fire Station. Amomole is off the Pukwasi Ablikuma stretch. Yes, yes. So, and then also I want to commend GH Media for giving me this opportunity to come explain to you a few tips about fire.
So fire has become an issue lately. For the past few months, there's always fire outbreak here and there. We are losing precious lives. When we say fire, what is fire safety and its prevention? What can one do to prevent these things? And what, when it happens, what can we do? And what are some of the types of fire we live with? Like,
well, thank you. Before I answer your question, let me take the opportunity to greet a few people. I would want to greet Alhaji Chief Hamidu Kabore Bukari, who happens to be my dad, and then greet the Chief Fire Officer. Like, in the Ghana Police Service, they have the IGP, who is overall boss, so the Ghana National Fire Service. We also have the Chief Fire Officer, okay, and he's in the person of CFO Julius Kuno. I also want to greet our Regional Fire Officer, who is a CFO Nisao, and the entire personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service. Now, to your question, fire, there are three elements comes together to form fire, or for fire to occur. Okay, so we have heat, we have oxygen, and we have fuel. We know heat, we know oxygen. With a fuel isn't like the petrol, the diesel, but with fuel, anything that can burn is fuel. So, I'm sorry, so as you are here, I know you are human, so you are fuel, so you can burn. Right.
Yeah, okay.
Good. And then most people don't really pay attention to safety. You know, in Ghana, we normally prioritize security over safety, and it's our major problem. Okay, yes. Yeah. So if you had to ask me what are some of the causes of fires over the years, the things that Ghana National Fire Service, the records that we have shows that one of the main trending incidents of fires to do with electrical fires, and normally it happens in our homes, okay, in our offices and all of that. And then with the electrical fires, you know, let me give you a few examples. I'll try and make it very practical so that you understand. Our viewers will also get it.
Sure.
Most people leave their electrical appliances on when they are leaving the house. Okay, yeah. Most people don't really pay attention to the kind of wires that they use, as in when they are building their homes and all of that. You know, most people go in for the inferior ones. Yeah. It's very dangerous. Another thing is that they don't also pay attention to the people that are coming to work on it. Okay, instead of you getting a qualified electrician to work on it, it becomes very difficult, you know, trying to pay more and all of that. You know, you always want to go for the cheap one, right? And it becomes a problem. So all of these things causes fire a lot. And then you see, let me explain something to you. Something that really causes fire in our homes that we've not paid attention to has to do with recharging our phones overnight.
Wow.
Okay, what happens is, you see, after you close from when you get home like 9, 10. You're tired. You just put your phone on charge and you leave it. You know, there's something in the phone which is more or less like a circuitry unit. Okay, so when the phone is very new, it's also new. As you are charging your phone for a very long time, that circuitry unit becomes very weak. Okay, so as you are charging your phone, you see that sometimes when you have to leave your phone on charge for very long, it becomes very hot. Yeah, hot. So it is generating heat. Right, good. So once in your room, there's oxygen available, there's fuel, which is maybe your sofa or your carpet or whatever available, and there's also oxygen around. So I've mentioned oxygen, fuel, and then heat around. And it means that
yeah.
would have fire. So it becomes very difficult for the Ghana National Fire Service to control some of these things. So the best thing we do is that we just try to educate people on it. And then also another thing, let me mention this before I forget. Our AC, the outdoor, not the one inside. I mean the one outside. Normally birds go to nests. They have their nest on it. And you see the outdoor also produces much heat. And even sometimes these birds go around picking branches of trees. And all of that. And then maybe, mind you, it might already be burning. And then they'll just bring it on it, and then you might not know your absence. Fire can occur. So a lot of things causes fire in our homes. And then, as I'm here today, we want to educate people on it that, yes, you cannot do away with fire entirely, but then we have to be careful. When we go to the kitchen too, most of the times people just forget themselves that they are even cooking. They send their phones to the kitchen, and then, the radiation that it emits and all of that can also cause fires in our homes. And we don't even put off our cylinders off very well. Instead of we putting off the regulator, before we switch it, we just turn it off. When you do that, you still have the gas in the tube. Okay, and there is a gas leakage, and then when there's a little ignition or spark from anywhere, it can cause fire. So these are some of the common causes of fire in our homes.
We are really living with fire then.
Yeah.
Where should we put our gas in the first place? The cylinder, I mean.
Thank you very much for this question. We normally live in single rooms, chamber and halls, and then, if you are privileged to have a kitchen in there, then the best place is that you would want to put it in your kitchen because you are scared of teeth coming from it. Right? But it's not advisable. So what we always advise is that people should always put their cylinders outside. So you create a cage for it outside. You connect a tube through your hose, so it'll be outside. When there's a gas leakage, the oxygen around will carry the gases and it goes. Okay, but once it's in a confined area, you're even exposing it to heat. Okay, so it's always advisable that you keep your gas cylinders outside. And not indoors.
So with our structuring, the way we build our houses today, now Accra is so populated now, so the little space somebody gets, he wants to build something small for renting. And how do we go about this? Because sometimes even taking it out, where are you putting it? Like
I mentioned earlier, you would always have to prioritize safety over security. So if you feel you can live with the gas, and you see, mind you, even with the gases that we live with in our living rooms and all of that, it's very, very dangerous because you are inhaling the gases, and these gases are very poisonous, I should say. So, in as much as how they design your place and whatsoever, I should try and find ways and means to get your gas cylinders outside. You have a cage for it. You have something like a shelf or whatever that would protect the cylinder from getting the direct sunshine. So that it wouldn't also heat. And mind you, with the gases, when we were in school, we learned state of matter. We have liquid gases so what we are saying is this: that gases expand. So once they become very heated, they tend to expand. And once they expand, if care is not taken, they will try to escape. And once they escape, the only option is that they gain energy. They gain something called kinetic energy. Okay, so they become very, 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 very active, and then they might explode. So another thing, we always advise people that when they go to fill their gas cylinders, normally say, "Oh, fill in." No, we don't do that. You have to leave a space so that the gases can get room to operate, or they'll get room to move freely. With gas, there are wider spaces between them. So once you give them a little space, they'll be able to move freely, right? But if they are filled to the brim, it becomes a problem. Because mind you, when you were coming, it was on a motor, it was in your car. The cars, Ghana and our roads will be shaken. They are gaining energy. Right, so, and some people, once they get to that, they just put a cylinder there, they connect the regulator, and then they start using it. That is very bad, You have to let the gas settle for at least 20 to 30 minutes so that these gases will settle before you use it. If not, that you would end up killing yourself.
Wow. So with the gas, okay, we have some types of cylinders. I see people selling cylinders in a small, now you see it's all around. It's not sold at a gas station or something like that, but I've seen provision shops with those cylinders. I hear it's very light. Is it advisable to use that kind of?
Yes, it is somebody's work, and we wouldn't want to ruin somebody's business and all of that. It is good. Everything has its own advantages and disadvantages. And then with those gases, they are very transparent. You can see where your gas, and it's also very light too. So it is good. The only thing is that when you are going to refill the gas, one, you ensure that you don't fill it to the brim.
Okay.
2, you ensure that the seals on it are changed off. You see, they have this rubber seal on it.
Yes.
Okay, and sometimes you get people putting stones on their cylinders. You know, when you do that, you are only stopping the sound that comes from it. You are not stopping the gases from coming
leaking.
out.
Okay.
So the gases will still leak, but the sound that you hear just stops, and it's very, very dangerous, right? So with those gas cylinders, yes, they are okay, but then, like I said, you don't fill it to the brim. That is one, and you also change the seals, the rubber seals on it anytime you go to
refill it. Okay, so we'll go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the questions. Welcome back. That's the Real Chatbox Show with your cute host, OB Slender. So, Mr. Afro, we were talking about the types of cylinders and how to fill it and whatnot. Like, you know, some people have rusted gas cylinders. They just spray when they see there's a little rusty area. They just spray over it and then it's good to go. Like, is there a lifespan for a gas cylinder?
Yes, everything on earth has a lifespan. Even with we human beings, we have a lifespan, isn't it? Yes. So when you go to buy your gas cylinders, normally they write expiry date on it.
Wow.
Yes. Normally we don't check. And you see, the problem is that once you see your gas rusting, then it means that you have to change it. You know, I think sometime 2022, thereabouts, Ghana National Fire Service, we were on a mission. We went out arresting people who were going for the old, you know, some people going for the old cylinders, then they spray it. You know, and it's very, very dangerous.
Yeah,
you know, yeah. So I would advise that as you are watching right now, you can just go to your kitchen or you can go outside if you have your cylinder outside, check the expiry date. Normally like 10 years or some. I can't give you an example because depending on the people
when
that
it was manufactured, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but then every gas cylinder has an expiry date attached to it.
Okay. So viewers, you heard that. Please and please again, don't spray your gas cylinder when you see it's rusty. Kindly change it for your own safety and that of others. Mr. Afro, so when we go to the workplaces, you see fire alarms and those things. Like, can we do same in the houses, or it's just for the commercial or office spaces?
No, you see, the reason most people don't have the smoke detectors, I think I even brought one here.
Okay.
Is that you can't fix this in your kitchen. Because with the kitchen, you are exposed to fuel. I mean, smoke, I should say.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and you know, with this thing, it always triggers when there is smoke. Okay, so yes, so you can also have it in your homes, because with fire doesn't only start from the kitchen, even in your halls. Because in the halls, you have this electrical cables running all over. Yeah. Exactly, yes. So you can have this also in your hall. Even in your bedroom, you can have one there. And you see, it works like this. Once it gets exposed to another, one is detects smoke. It rings or it sounds. Okay, it gives that beeping sound. Okay, and normally people just fix it and then that's all. You always need to check that is it working or not. There's a light here. I don't know if you can see. There's a light that comes. There's a red light that it blinks. It comes and it goes. Okay. Sometimes the battery inside might be very weak. So what you can do to check as to whether it is really working is that you just get if it's at a height, you just get a broom, that long broom, the standing brooms. So you press on the test. There's something here called, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can
test.
See test.
Yes. So when you press on it for a very long, for maybe some few minutes, you see this beeping.
Okay.
Good. Then it means that it is working. And anytime there is smoke, when smoke gets to this, then it means that it would also beep like this, indicating that there is fire, there's smoke around, or there's fire or something. That's why it's not advisable to get this in the kitchen, because in the kitchen
it will beep every time.
So it will be beeping it all the time. Yeah. So that's it. So that's how the smoke alarms they work, and it's very, very essential, and people would have to get this in their homes, in their offices, anywhere.
Okay. So the fire responses and emergency preparedness. What should people do in case there is fire emergency?
When there is fire, what's normally I advise is that you have to get an evacuation plan.
Okay.
Okay, and then if it's in a home, you have to practice this with your family, you know, so that when there is fire, they will know what to do, you know. So when there is fire, the first thing that you do is that if it's in the office, you know, normally we have our offices on high-rise buildings and all of that. And I always advise people that when there's fire, you should avoid the elevators. Don't do it, because you know it is fire.
The lights can go off.
You get stuck in there. Right, good. So when there's fire, the first you have to do is that you leave everything that you are doing. Once you hear the alarm blowing or whatsoever, you leave everything that you are doing, and then you follow the exit sign. I think when I was coming up, I saw your exit signs all over. I think you are doing well. Yes. So you just follow the exit sign, then you get a place, a safe place that you can be. Yes. So one thing that you can do to save yourself is that, one, stop everything that you are doing. Two, avoid the elevators, use the stairways, and then three, make sure you go out of the building to a place that you'll be safe. Yeah, an open space.
Okay. So in case there is a fire outbreak and somebody is in there, but there are onlookers or neighbors who are ready to help, but the person is bent or something, like, if the person is conscious, what should the person do?
Let me start from where you started by saying that when there's fire and there are people around. You see, one thing that people do is that when there's fire, they tend to do something before they call on the Ghana National Fire Service. But that is very wrong. Every fire starts small. So what happens is this: when like in this structure, in this building,
okay,
it takes God forbid, when there's fire here, it takes just 3 minutes for everything here to come down. 3 minutes.
Wow, that's such a short.
Yes. So we advise that once you notice fire, the first thing is that you call on the Ghana National Fire Service, close all windows, then you step outside.
Okay. So in closing all windows, you mentioned 3 elements that contributes to fire. So in closing the windows, does that mean that because of the air?
Exactly. So when you close the windows, you are trying to starve the fire.
Okay.
3 elements: oxygen, heat, fuel. There is fuel in the room, there's oxygen around, there's heat. So once you remove any of this one of the 3, then automatically fire wouldn't occur. Right, yeah. So we advise that you close all windows, then you step out. Now, when you are bent, we don't even advise people to even come inside to even come and rescue you, because you might not know what you are coming to meet. For example, let me give you a typical example, like the Mokola fire that occurred last year. People were insulting the Ghana National Fire Service. You see, sometimes when you hear this comment, it's funny, because trust me, they had only one exit route, as in just one place that you can walk, like a staircase, like your place like this. God forbid again, when there's fire here right now, we would have to use the same exit. And when fire happens, your walls get cracked and all of that. So people were saying, why don't you go inside to extinguish the fire? We cannot go inside because the building was coming down. So we have to fight the fire from outside. So we advise that people are not supposed to come inside to come and rescue. If by chance you're able to go out, then maybe if you're burning, what you do is that you can roll on the floor so that it would put out the fire, and then you seek medical attention. And let's not limit ourselves to just fire. Ghana National Fire Service, we don't do. I'll just brag a little about Ghana National Fire Service. We don't just do fire. We do something called road traffic coalition. Okay, road traffic extrication, or we can also say road traffic accidents. So when there's accident on a road where people are involved, people are trapped inside, the first point of call should be the Ghana National Fire Service. Normally people call the Ghana Police Service. When you call the Ghana Police Service, they are sister service, but they will relay the information to the Ghana National Fire Service, because we have the extrication tools to come and do our rescue. Please, you understand?
Yes.
So when we come, we know what to do to ensure that the person wouldn't, there was an incident that our men attended to, and then people tried to rescue the people from the car, and at the end of the day, you damage their spine. My own commander, for example, had an accident sometime last year, May, and then because he was off, people came into the car to rush him out, and it has affected the spine.
Wow.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, that people shouldn't be in a hurry to. You can rescue them, but you need to ensure that the right people are coming, or you just have to hold their neck to ensure that you are protecting their spine. So it is something else. In Ghana, some elsewhere in the world, when the fire engine moves, an ambulance also should follow. You understand? Yes. So if you want to help the person, then you have to check all of these things and you ensure that there's the nearest hospital around that you can convey the person to. If not, that you end up damaging the person's spine.
You said elsewhere, when the fire engine moves, the ambulance should follow. So is that the case here?
No, that's not the case. But you ask yourself, how many ambulances do we even have in the country?
But now there are a lot of ambulances.
We don't have a lot of, they give. I wouldn't want to do politics because we don't do politics. But then we don't have much ambulances. Yes, we have they give each constituency one.
Wow.
And then the ambulances are there to cater for the hospitals. So if the ambulance moves, and then there's an emergency in the hospital, what happens?
But this one is also an emergency because somebody might be dying.
Yes, it's an emergency, but it's even, you would attest to it. I wouldn't want to go there, but sometimes when you even call them, some people, I don't know how true that is. They say, oh, you would have to pay money and all of that. You see,
Yeah.
so they are also under resourced. We can understand. We'll have that conversation later. But I'm saying that it is not in the case of it. But we have our men trained. We have paramedics amongst us. That's when we go and then the situation is very critical. We can give first aid. So in the big fire appliance that you or the fire truck that you see, it's not just water. We have our RTC tools, like I mentioned earlier. Those are tools that we use to do our extrication. We cut parts of the car to bring people out. And we also have a first aid kit that people that need assistance, we give them before we call in the ambulance to come to convey them to the hospital. You see, when it happens like this, if you're not careful, we'll end up messing the whole thing, because sometimes it is not something serious. So when ambulance moves and there's something that happens at the hospital becomes very. So we would want to get there. If we can contain it, we contain it. If we can't, we call for help from the ambulance service.
So you said when there's a fire outbreak, we shouldn't be in a haste to try to do it. We should call on fire service first. But sometimes there are a lot of instances when fire service personnel are there with their engine, but there's no water in the tank.
Thank you very much. If you hadn't asked this question, I would be very pissed. It is a misconception out there.
Okay.
I went to the University of Ghana. I did business administration.
Okay.
Now I'm a fire officer. But I'm saying this. Do you think that I would, being an officer in charge,
you move your van,
ask the driver to move the appliance with fuel,
with no water,
just come to look at the fire and go back? You see, what happens is this: we don't use fire to extinguish all fires. There are some fires that we use water to extinguish. There are some fires we don't use water to extinguish. An example has to do with electrical fires. With electrical fires, with electricity, water is a good conductor of electricity. So, and mind you, I said this during my last interview at faculty. I told them, listen, we are also human beings. And we came to work. We didn't come to die. So, and we didn't set the fire. It's our work to try and extinguish the fire. But it doesn't mean that we should come and die. When we come and it is an electrical fire, what we have to do is that we have to call on ECG to cut power for the whole neighborhood. ECG also have their own work they are doing. If they've not cut the power, we cannot
do anything about it.
Because we're thinking, the person trapped inside. So what we'll do is that we'll try and ask if there are people trapped inside. Then we'll try and do the rescue. Okay? But if there are no people inside, then we'll try as much as possible to get to ECG so that they cut power. Once they cut power, it becomes an ordinary fire. It becomes like a class A fire. Then we can use the fire to extinguish it.
Okay, what do you mean by class A? That means there are types of...
There are classes of fires.
Okay, classes of fires.
Yeah, so the classes, we have class A, class B, class C, class D. Some people, over time, they are trying to introduce more. And they've also mentioned class K, okay, and then electrical fires as well. But I don't term electrical fires to be a class. I term it to be a form of fire. So let me explain the class A. The class A are combustible solid materials. So solid, anything you can hold, anything that can burn. So like the table here is solid. And with this, you don't need anything you can just pour water on it and then it goes off. Right, you can also use the extinguishers. In Ghana, we have 5 extinguishers, but in Ghana, the common ones are just 2. That's the carbon dioxide. We'll come there. The carbon dioxide fire extinguisher and then the dry chemical powder. Okay, so you can use the CO2, that's the carbon dioxide fire extinguisher, to extinguish class A fires. You can also use the dry chemical powder to also extinguish class A fires. Now with the class B fires, they are flammable liquids. So like petrol, alcohol, diesel, those things. So those things you cannot use water, because you see, even with oil, when you are to mix water with oil, what happens? You have the oil
suspended.
So it means that water is more dense than oil, right? So you can use water, and you can't also use a CO2 extinguisher. So you have to use a dry chemical powder. Now with the dry chemical powder, it comes out like a powder. So we'll just try to blanket the surface of the fire so that more oxygen wouldn't get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, so like you mentioned rightly, that 3 elements. When you take one from it, you start the fire and the fire goes off. So that is with the class B fires. It has to do with flammable liquids. We have the class C fires. That has to do with flammable gases like propane, like butane, like the LPGs that we use in our homes. And that one too, you should use the dry chemical powder to also extinguish it. And then we have the class D. That's a flammable or combustible metals. So we have aluminium, it's a metal. Yes, and it can also burn. Yes, so and then you can't also use the CO2 because it's just a gas. So we use the dry chemical powder to do to extinguish that fire. And then the class K fire is like the grease fire. It's like the oil fire, it's the cooking oil. It's when you are in your home, your kitchen, you are cooking, sometimes it spills into the fire and it comes out like that.
It comes out.
Yes, so with those fires, you can use the dry chemical powder to extinguish it, and then that's fine. With the electrical fires, like I said earlier, there are forms of fires, okay? And then with them, when it happens, like the first thing you have to do is that you turn off the mains, as in your main switch and all of that. Once you put that off, you've cut power for that house or that building that you're in. Okay, so when it happens, like it becomes like an ordinary fire, so it becomes like a class A fire. So you can use water. That's why I mentioned that when we come and it's an electrical fire,
we have to
call on the ECG to cut power for the whole neighborhood so that we can do our work. So these are the classes of fires that we have: Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D. Then we have Class K. Electrical fires, I term it as a form of fire.
Okay. So wrapping up, what do you tell our lovely viewers?
Yes, they should prioritize safety over security. Security is very important. When a thief comes to your house, it takes only your phone, takes your TV, goes away. But when fire comes, it takes everything away. So I think it's high time people prioritize safety than security. Yes, you can also do the security, but do more with the safety. Okay, I also advise people to be a little bit of, they should exercise patience for the Ghana National Fire Service when we come, because our work is very, very, very
tedious. They tend to dictate to you what to do.
Over the years, we get attacks on firefighting and all that, and people feel because we don't use arms, so we are weak. We are not weak. The firefighter has his strength in his arm because we use more of our arms to work. And we are very, very, very strong. And then also people should try and get the fire extinguishers in their homes for first aid. You get one in your car, you get one in your office, you get one in your homes too. So that, and then fire extinguisher, let me say this before we go, quick one. The fire extinguisher, I saw a video where the fire was very huge and the person was trying to use an extinguisher. The fire extinguisher is a first aid. We in the fire service, we say it's a first aid appliance. So it is used to extinguish fire at its incipient stage. Okay, so it's used to extinguish fire at its early stages. Okay, so when the fire is huge, you can't use the extinguisher. You have to call on the Ghana National Fire Service. But when it starts small, that's only when you use the fire extinguisher to extinguish the fire. And some people say we put out fire. We don't put out fire. We extinguish fires.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bismarck Kafo. We are so grateful for this education. So my lovely viewers, you heard him. When there is a fire, don't rush to do it yourself. Kindly call on fire service. And don't try to enter the building. And please, the detergents that we try to use, because you don't know the type of fire that is, whether it's an electrical, because we've learned from him, it could be an electrical or it could be a gas fire outbreak. So we should be careful what we apply. And on this note, I would like to give a 1-minute silence for our veteran actor, Mauli Semevo. We tried our best to save him. I put out my number for people to donate for his healing, but alas, he couldn't make it. Thank you, Ghanaians. You did a marvelous job. We amassed about 75,000 just to save him and for his aftercare. But death, when it lays its icy hands on you, there's nothing you can do. I'm grateful to Ghanaians. Let's observe 1-minute silence for our veteran actor, Mauli Semevo. May his soul rest in perfect peace.
Didn't I just see you around the classroom block?
Say me.
Ah! And what are all these germs in your neck?
Hello, my name is Mauli Semevo.
Rest in peace, Mauli Semevo. The light will never dim.
Thank you, lovely viewers. I'll see you on our next episode. Please join me again for more interesting and educative episodes. Thank you very much. Till then, cheers.